Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to yet again another episode and installment of the Just Music Podcast. I got a really awesome episode this week that I'm really looking forward to share with you guys. I got to sit down and speak with AJ Glaub. He is one of the individuals that works at Elderly Instruments in the marketing team. So he does a lot of the behind the scenes aspects about filming the instruments and all on the social media posts and all kinds of cool different things that all has to revolve around Elderly Instruments media. So I hope you guys really enjoy this episode because it was a lot of fun sitting down and talking to AJ, and AJ will now join us in progress. All right, everybody. Welcome back to yet again another installment episode on the Just Music Podcast. I'm really looking forward to this because we have an individual from Elderly Instruments again. We had somebody from Elderly before, Lillian Werbin, the owner, but now we have the individual who is in charge of all the behind-the-scenes aspects, AJ Glaub. And I'm really excited for him to be here. He has a lot of different roles at Elderly, and I'd like to get into that so you guys can see kind of the behind-the-scenes aspects a little bit in some more detail. But before we get into all these questions, I would like AJ to give himself a little introduction and a little origin story.
All right. Well, hey, Justin's audience. My name is AJ Glaub. Been with Elderly for 3 years on the marketing team. I actually started as the door guy. It was just a side job. I worked at Retro Duck in East Lansing, screen printing. And for 20 hours a week, I'd come to Elderly, and I'd pick up a guitar off the rack. I'd sit at the front door, and I would practice. And I learned so much stuff just sitting there, and I met so many cool people. And I saw all the different instruments coming in and out because I'd open up each case, and I'd write down what the person was coming in with. And I'd write down, check them out on their way out. So I did that for a couple months. And then I joined the marketing team. So that's how I started with the company. And my history before that is I've been a musician for a couple decades now. And I've been an events coordinator for about 15 years in the Lansing area. Studied a little bit of music in college, but I kind of just preferred rocking out instead of that. I kind of come from a DIY kind of history in the Lansing community. What you might associate with like punk and electronic music was really like where I came from. And I've always loved all music. I love all instruments. I love kind of getting to know how they work. I love discovering new genres that I haven't heard before. And working for Elderly has every day is that kind of adventure.
Wow, awesome. Good to know. Yeah, I definitely, for some of the viewers that may have never been to Elderly but know who Elderly is. So Elderly, like AJ mentioned, they have a staff person in the front door to kind of check the instruments in and out to see what's going in. And just my experiences when I've always come into Elderly, I always like end up like chit-chatting with the person at the door for like 15 minutes or so. Yeah, exactly.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah, he's a talker.
Yeah, he is. He's a player too. Yeah, he practices every day at work for 4 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I want to kind of talk a little bit into the specifics about your role at Elderly, and specifically, you know, what you kind of do as far as like the marketing team, and you know, whether that be, you know, doing things for media or the website. I know you have a really big hands-on with the website and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I handle our social media, which is, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We put it on other websites, Twitter, Pinterest as well. I handle our events coordinating, so all concerts and workshops. So what social media, events coordinator, and videography. So I do all of our video demos, and we also do a lot of fun videos with guest artists coming in. That kind of goes hand in hand with the events coordinating. So I get to kind of schmooze with touring artists or people who stop by. So I'm kind of the go-to guy. I love it. If somebody, you know, is coming by who's going to either play a gig or is just visiting, I might spend some time with them, just kind of showing them what's in the vault or getting them to play some things on camera, which is really great. And sometimes, you know, when an event maybe isn't the highest attended event, if artists still leave saying, I got to, you know, spend all this time digging through your vault, digging through your stock. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people who come here to play will walk out having bought a guitar or two, you know, just because they spent the day hanging out. It's right. True. So, you know, on the marketing team, I kind of handle those three main avenues. And as we continue to evolve, I've been helping with copywriting, and we all kind of collaborate on our overall collective vision.
Okay, cool. So I have a follow-up to that. So I know you mentioned that you do like all of the instrument demo videos and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
do you also do um like it's so funny because I've been always curious about this. So elderly in recent years and months have starting to get more into the meme culture of things. I've seen them put out quite a
Yeah.
few different meme type videos that are really, really funny and entertaining. Who are you behind those ideas when it comes to those types of videos?
Well, we kind of all have
Oh,
ideas and we kind
collectively.
of bounce them around. We had a really great one lined up for April Fool's this year. I mean, it was really going to be good. It was spoiled by the pandemic, and we'll save it for later. It's coming. We bought the
Okay.
props and everything. This is a little bit of over the top this year. But, a good buddy of mine, Ty Forker, he recently left the company to help be more with his family during the pandemic.
Okay.
But this is a little secret just for your audience, but he's Lansing Facts. He's part of Lansing Facts, the meme page that's popular in the Lansing area, and he's on our marketing team. So he really brought a lot of that energy initially, and that's something that our director Michael Earlywine really always wanted as well, and that's something that I've kind of learned to grow, to have confidence in, because you don't want to put something out there for the first time and be funny
Right.
and have it be bad. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of great ideas. We're kind of, like Joe cutting up a punchki for in the shop,
Yeah,
like
in the
as if he was,
shop.
yeah, that was one that, we just had punchkis that day, and I was just like, let's do this as a video. Let's have Joe, analyze it like it's a guitar. So he's commenting on the nice powder top and the jelly filling. But yeah, we're kind of, in this time where everybody was kind of focused on not, companies didn't want to just sell stuff to you during a time of crisis. And so, and I'm working from home. So we just kind of like shut down 2 months ago, like everybody did. And I'm at home with my laptop and I'm not creating fresh content. And we were like, how do we continue to engage with our audience? What's the right thing to do now? I don't feel like just posting a picture of a PRS guitar and being like, check out this rad electric guitar. It's not the right time for that. So
Right.
Humor at the right times, connecting about music. And really that brings me to the point that as a marketing professional for elderly instruments, it's really easy to have an idea because we have the love of music throughout the building, throughout our customer base. Everybody just, loves the music. And so it's so easy to fall back on that. You really just have to kind of to get out of the way and not think too hard and just let people, either express themselves by submitting what they're doing or talking about the instruments they have at home or sharing a great performance. And people love that stuff.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned these media posts because occasionally I've seen with elderly on some of the media posts where they'll say, showcase us your original, instruments of when elderly like first opened their doors or, just old receipts and stuff like this or old paperwork. And we have these customers that I've seen that are on the post that will post a picture of their receipt from like the 80s. And I'm just like, they still have it. That's just, when I see stuff like that, that just shows that elderly, beyond it just being an instrument storefront, is it's more of a communal aspect of it, which I love about it because, and I mentioned this in Lily's podcast episode, is that, whether you're just learning guitar or you're like a seasoned musician or any instrument in that case, you can walk in and feel right at home. And that's why I love elderly so much. And it doesn't, and it's not just because, we're Lansing natives. You can be from anywhere and you'll feel welcome, and it's just such a communal place.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's founded in folk and traditional music and bluegrass. That's kind of the roots of elderly instruments. And while we, sell a PRS guitar, like I said, or, a really sick Strat or whatever, we sell a lot of electric guitars, a lot of instruments that people like to rock out with. But really the roots of it is banjo, mandolin, acoustic guitar. Right. And that community is so strong in Michigan and so strong behind elderly. And it's such a part of the company from day one and still is. Today, if it wasn't for the pandemic, today I would be at Midwest Banjo Camp with the rest of the team. Today would be day 2 of Midwest Banjo Camp. And 2 days ago, we would have had our banjo round robin. Like banjo's very close to our heart here. And that's not something that's very common in the music industry these days, at least within companies that carry a variety of instruments that are specifically focused on bluegrass.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of like the combination of like, not just focusing, if you're a music shop or a music dealer, you might say, okay, our specialty is pianos or our specialty is guitars. And it's like at Elderly, it's literally, it's combination of any type of instrument really that you can think of. I mean, we have all kinds of aspects of music in Elderly, which is really cool.
Well, I mean, I'm sure when you walk through our showroom, you've got the amp room,
Yeah.
and there's some guy just wailing in there. You've got to shut the doors, and then you walk through the ukulele room, and there's all the kids' toys and the mandolins and the resonator guitars and the classical guitars are all in that room. So you get, I mean, that's just a clash of all sorts of different sounds. Right around the corner is the banjo room, and you've got a guy just on a resonator guitar and finger picks tearing it up in there. And then the high-end room is really where everybody loves to go, the high-end acoustic guitar room.
Right.
And you'll see, a half dozen people in there, just drooling over $6,000 guitars or whatever. And and then there's the fiddle room right in the center of it all, and our repair shop, our lessons and special events room. There's just all these different little areas that people kind of gravitate to. Maybe they have one specific spot that they like to come to, like the electric guitarists or the ukulele players, but there's a whole big wall for that person right there.
Right. Well, AJ, I kind of want you to talk to me about the process of like showcasing the videos, whether that be a demonstration video of a new instrument that's like, coming out, or, trying to showcase maybe that you've got an elder instrument or a used instrument that's of some value. Talk me through that process of how, you get it and how the demos and all that stuff comes together.
Yeah, making a video for an instrument can kind of go a few different ways. It kind of depends on, really the value of the instrument, how special this is, what I think our audience, how they might react. Mm-hmm. We used to just pump out a few every week for our recent arrivals email. So within our email campaigns every Friday, we have a recent arrivals goes out. We highlight some of the coolest stuff that's came in. Mm-hmm. And for a couple of years, we would grab a few of those and make a video, but we kind of found that these things sold very quickly because as soon as they show up, there's people who are looking for that guitar, that banjo, that mandolin, and they buy it quickly. So we ended up with a lot of videos that were just, dead. They didn't really have much staying power on our channel. So now we're kind of looking to feature instruments that we might be able to get a few more of, or something that's truly special. We'll kind of put some video power behind. Sometimes maybe just an instrumental demo if we just want to hear how it sounds, or just I like to kind of, with the ukuleles, with the mandolins, that might not be as exciting as an electric guitar across the amps in a photo. Mm-hmm. For those, I might have Andy Wilson, our resident ukulele specialist. I might have him just grab it and do a 1-minute video where he talks about why he thinks it's extra cool. Sure, yeah. Or I'll grab Dan Bauman and he'll talk about a banjo that he thinks is extra cool. And so kind of just trying to, I kind of just try to not overthink things. And it's like, how do we just kind of no frills, just show that we like this instrument. Right. Sometimes you put the frills on too, if it's a really high end 5-6 figure instrument, we're going to do a lot of production and multiple camera angles, and we're going to talk about it that way.
Right. Yeah, I know I've come across some videos on the medias where it's not just, a stagnant shot. Like because the reason I bring this up is like when it comes to the production value, I know that there's a lot of time in it because it's not just one shot. Okay, do your thing. There's multiple angles and there's talking, in between, discussing the specs of the instrument or, what's all going on. And so I know like with that, even though on the surface, it may look like it's a quick little job because maybe it's a 3 or 4 minute video, but I would imagine that equates to, I don't know, a couple hours at least, would you say?
Yeah, maybe like an afternoon to put a good video together. Maybe sometimes longer, depending, how rendering is and stuff like that. You kind of want to see a version and then didn't really quite turn out how you wanted. But I've kind of, I pretty much learned how to video edit on the job here. We started pretty simple, and I've kind of been, we haven't invested very much money into it. We've just kind of pulled what we have together and kind of make it work, because we can and we can be creative. That's what we do here. And so like the studio, the Barnwood studio, that's literally my friend Bill's barn that he tore down.
Okay.
When I think it was before he moved, but anyways, he was just like, hey, you guys want Barnwood for the studio? And we just traded him a little bit of in-store credit. He was happy with the deal. We were happy with the deal. And, we just moved that right in the back of an employee's truck. It's very, very DIY, like I referenced earlier. That's kind of how I like to solve things.
So, AJ, this is really, really interesting for me because, again, I think the coolest thing about being a customer of any field of industry, whether that's elderly or, any type of business, I always really like getting a behind the scenes aspect. And it's really enjoyable as a customer who really loves elderly and supports elderly and will, go to elderly for all of his musical needs, and seeing all this and behind the scenes is just a really, really cool experience for me. And I'm sure that the viewers will also appreciate that as well. I know it's kind of dorky and I kind of geek out about it, but just because like I started coming to elderly when I first started playing music when I was young, and then just to grow up and then say, oh, these guys still work here, and then watch them on the, the internet and stuff. It's just really cool to see firsthand,
Yeah, well, a lot of the staff have been here since close to the beginning.
Right.
And, what's interesting about elderly is that from a local perspective, it's a successful local business. But until you're really behind the scenes, or if you really know the company, you might not realize that it's a worldwide business. In fact, most of our business is shipping and online sales. And so while we have this worldwide presence, the Werbins are the co-owners, Stan and his daughter, Lily. And we have our marketing team, which is a lot of lifelong veteran employees. And guys like me who've been here, maybe we're newer and we're kind of helping bring a new generation perspective to the company. But there's no corporate structures. It's not a guitar center, And if we have an idea, if I have an idea for the company as a whole, it's listened to. We act on it. We listen to everybody. Everybody has a voice in how the company moves forward, and that lends itself to us being creative and dynamic and always changing, which I think is really important, especially in our marketing, is to always kind of be finding a new look all the time, really.
Right. And, I should note this as well, as the more paths that I cross with elderly employees, is I always just seems that everyone really, really loves what they do, and they all love their job. And unfortunately, we live in such a world where that's not so common. And it is. It's a sad reality. And to know that elderly, it's just like everybody really does enjoy what they do. I mean, come on, they're working around music. I mean, what's a better job than that?
That's exactly how I feel. I couldn't believe it starting here. What it actually entailed. It is kind of like working at Santa's workshop, and people are so happy to come here. And if you're truly somebody who's passionate about music,
right,
not just music, but the instruments, the culture, the history, the future of it, that's part of the everyday life here. And so, but at the same time, it's it's important for us to focus on it as a business and continue to be successful. But that passion drives me to sit here and focus on my computer,
right,
get some work done.
Right, exactly. Well, this is a good a transition to this as well. So you've been working at elderly some time now. What would you say? What has been the most rewarding or the most exciting experience or aspect about working at elderly? I know you kind of touched base on the fact that you're always seeing like new instruments, or there's always new people coming in and new videos and different marketing campaigns to do. But is there one thing that you're just like, yes, this is why I love working here the most. This is what I get so excited about.
Well, as a broad answer, like taking over events a couple years ago when Chris retired was really challenging and really rewarding in that challenge. I kind of got to stay after hours. You got to host people. You got to make sure everyone's happy and make sure that's a successful night for the artists on their tour. But I have so many great memories tied to that, and I've met so many people, and just when I'm looking through social media and I see musicians coming up who are getting attention, it's like, that guy stopped by Elderly, that girl stopped by Elderly,
Right.
played here last year or the year before. And that's just so cool. It's like I've worked with them. So that's been really rewarding. But specifically like a specific project that like I'd say the biggest highlight was I'm a left-handed guitarist, okay, and I have not announced that. I haven't told you that, but I am. So, but being elderly is pretty cool because I always can grab a guitar. There's a lot of lefties here. In fact, I've been playing a lefty Martin tenor lately. That's just divine. That's in our showroom. Sanitizing before and after.
Right.
And but last year, right about this time, maybe it was in May of last year, we got in a pre-war Martin left-handed D28.
Ooh,
In fact, the only
rare.
lefty pre-war D28 known to be made. It was a custom order from a guy, Lefty Boucher, Lefty was what he was known as, and he was a regional touring musician. And he ordered a custom Martin guitar and had a custom headstock because his friend had designed his own tuning peg system, but it kind of almost looks like a Gibson headstock. It has Lefty engraved on the truss rod cover, if that's what it is. If the reason, I don't know, but it's a little emblem that says Lefty. So it's this totally different, one of a kind left-handed guitar.
Right.
And so we got this in and we're like, wow, we got to do this up big. We had a whole scrapbook of photos of him touring with the instrument, gigging with the instrument, all this history. And so I asked Andy Wilson, one of our showroom managers, if he would reach out to Joshua Davis, which is a well-known Michigan guitarist and singer-songwriter. And if he would be willing to come by and play, because he's a lefty and he's a great guitarist, and he agreed to do it. And so he stopped by, and me and Michael Earlywine, we put 3 different cameras on him, which is, I think it's the only time we did 3 cameras. And we filmed him playing that for about half an hour or an hour, and then we had to talk to Joe about it, and we had Stan talk. And I spent a lot of time editing that footage. And it actually ended up being a trilogy of videos. So we made 3 videos about this one instrument because there was just so much to talk about. Because Joe Conkley, our repair shop manager, put a lot of time and effort into making sure the instrument was playing at its top ability. And Joshua Davis came down, and Stan had a lot to say about it. Stan Werbin, the owner. And so we had so much content about this that I was like, this has to be 3 full videos. And I love going back and watching them. They sound great. I took a lot of time to kind of learn a little bit more about audio mastering for that project as well. I kind of took with every project I get a little bit better at showing the instrument how it truly sounds. And but yeah, that was a really rewarding project, and I got to play it.
Right. That's the icing on the top, right?
Yep. But people always like to hear the price tags on this. I think it was $60,000.
Oh.
And I think the guy bought it for Christmas for himself. I'm pretty sure it sold last December though.
Wow.
So,
but that's like the type of thing where it's like, it's when you have an instrument that's so rare in form, it's like, how do you even consider a price point? Because there's nothing else to base it off of, That
is true. I'm glad that's not my job here. We have appraisers who are dedicated to that.
Man. But I mean, and that's not the first time that I've heard stories about this, though. Elderly has had so many prized instruments walk in where it's like, what is that? I've never even seen this before. Never even knew this existed,
Mm-hmm. We do a lot of consignments. That was a consignment. The family put that on consignment with us. So they're a factor in determining price as well, because they want a certain amount for something that was, of historic value, of family value to them. And, I don't know how the appraisers work. I shouldn't speculate on camera about how our appraisal system works. I have more knowledge. But we help them determine a price and help them sell it. And
yeah. That's awesome. So would you say that that is probably your most favorite instrument or project that you've worked on then? Is that Martin, the left-handed Martin, pre-war era?
Yep. And then, kind of outside of Elderly, the Midwest Banjo Camp, which is put on by Elderly, but it's not technically an Elderly event,
Right.
is this time every year. This would have been my fourth year going. And, it's 4 days of banjo. And that might not sound appealing to some people watching this podcast who are more guitar centric, but let me tell you, the amount of musicianship, of history, of culture, of just the energy going between jam circles, people collaborating who are legends,
Right.
really legendary musicians like, I'm not going to start naming names because I think that they're all worthy of praise who I've met. And then there's the staff concerts every night. So all the teachers will go and they'll back each other up and stuff. So that's just kind of a glimpse of like the culture that Elderly gets involved with, and all these people who are Elderly fans and friends of the company who come to this camp. So it's pretty freaking cool.
Where is that at now? Because I know the ukulele camp is in Olivet. Is that also in Olivet?
Yep, same grounds.
Okay, so if you watched Lily's episode, yeah, that's where I did my undergrad at. And
That's right. Yeah. That's
so
right.
when I had to tell the story again, just if people didn't catch the last episode, but I was on Olivet's campus, and I don't even remember where I was coming from. I was walking through campus or whatever, and I saw all these tents and stuff going on, all this stuff going on. It's like, what is going on? Like Olivet is such a small town, so like when you see something going on, your nose is in the business of what it is, because there's not a lot going on there. And
Yeah.
I saw like an Elderly flag I saw an Elderly logo,
Yeah.
and so I kind of did one of those. I'm just going to walk over there and, look over my shoulder, see what's going on. And then I see all these, I saw this Elderly staff, and then I saw the Werbins there as well. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I put two and two together. And then I remember going back to where I was living at the time, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this must be the camp that they're doing. Little did I know that it was held right in Olivet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for somewhere around 14 or 15 years. I think this year was the 14th. I'm just kind of guessing from memory, but it's been going on a while.
Wow, that's very, very cool. Yeah, little did I know. So are there and I know it was such a kind of a funky, weird time that we're living in, but are there any big projects that you're currently working on or striving to work on once we maybe get some of these, orders lifted for Elderly? Do you have any special things coming up?
Well, we've recently started some things we were already doing with the change of production. So we started a Lick of the Day series,
Yeah.
which we've kind of moved to like a weekly rotation, and we're reaching out to friends of the store. You're a prime candidate. We're gonna have to talk about this.
Oh, jeez.
But just friends of the store, talented musicians who kind of just want to share a little something on their instrument that people could try at home. That was kind of the idea at first. And so that's kind of something that will probably continue to grow and bring the production back in-house and kind of see where we can take it from there. As far as my roles at the company, I'm helping more with the copywriting, the instruments. A newer employee, Todd Luter, he's our new graphic designer. He's doing a great job kind of revamping our entire image, maybe even down to our logo. I don't know. But kind of just our emails are looking better every week. For anybody who's looking at them, they might notice that. And, we're including more fun content in those emails. As far as big projects, the showroom guys have been busy. They're redecorating the showroom, renovating it. Things are in different places. It's a showroom because we've had the time to do that. It's clean. It's organized. Not that it wasn't before,
Right.
but I mean that they've really taken it to the next level in there. And I think it'll be fun for people who are regulars to go in and be like, oh, this is kind of a refreshed showroom.
Right.
More product on the floor.
Huh.
More space to play.
Right.
More things out front where you want to see them. So that's about all that's going on as far as behind the scenes right now.
Well, it's still cool to know because it's like I know when we first went into quarantine mode, God, about almost 2 months ago, it seems like now. Is that accurate? Close to being accurate, I think.
Yeah, just over that actually.
So
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, like, oh my God, I got like all this time. Like as a musician, that's great, right? You can practice all you want, play all you want. But in the same regard, as I became, I don't know, maybe other musicians experience this, but I wouldn't necessarily call it or equate it to burnout. But when you're doing it all the time, you get kind of a little tired of it. So I was like, God, I got to focus some attention on some other type of project, something that I can look forward to. Because for me, you know, when you're practicing all the time, you know, daily putting in 6+ hours or whatever, it's great. But, you know, you need to break that up because then even that becomes monotonous, you know, doing that over and over again. So this whole podcast came out of quarantine. And I was like, well, I really want to start putting out more videos and start interviewing people and see what their, you know, experiences are with this. And so to see that on the other side of Elderly is doing a similar thing where it's like, okay, we're going to revamp our showroom. We're going to relocate things and try to put more product out and, you know, just make it, you know, not that it was bad beforehand, but just, you know, how can we improve on it? You know, and that's really, really cool to hear.
Yeah. I was watching some of your videos in preparation for this interview. I really like what you're doing with the new, the classical guitar, finger picking and strumming styles. I really like those a lot. I'm going to use those. So production quality is looking really A+. I like it. I have to share some tips here.
I ordered a brand new camera and it just came yesterday. I got it was my first 4K camera, which I'm really excited about. It's a Panasonic Lumix G7. Okay. So it's not like, you know, the top of the line, but I mean, for somebody that, you know, is trying to, you know, up their production quality, it's still a big chunk of change. I mean, I'm like, but it's everything to me though is it's an investment long term. You have to think about, you know, the payoff as far as the investment long term. And I come from a family that's not so musical. So when I spend a lot of money on an instrument and my folks are like, Justin, I don't know if you should be spending money on this instrument like that. And then I say, it's a long-term investment.
Yeah, you got to hide those purchases. I've been pretty strategic with that. I have to hide it from my daughter. My daughter's 13, and I have to kind of just pretend that guitar was already in the house.
You just say, you know what, soon one day you'll realize and you'll understand why, you know. And I think it's a commonality among many non-musicians or people that maybe just aren't in the creative aspect in this regard, where they say, wow, you spent a lot of money on that one item. And it's like, yeah, but do you not realize that the way that it works with instruments is each, you know, more that you spend, you're in another tier, and it kind of just keeps going up like that. And it can be dangerous though, right? Because you're like, oh, and then you can get really up there.
Well, that's kind of a danger with being an elderly employee is, you know, like I was telling you about that Martin tenor that I've enjoyed playing. Well, you know, it's about $2,000, and I don't even play tenor guitar, but I want it.
Right.
You know, and I get to play it anytime I want, and you know, anybody kind of walking into here, you know, you can kind of fall in love with something that's outside your price range pretty easily. But actually, you know, a story I want to share is the first time I ever came to Elderly. It was for my 16th birthday. My mom took me here. She looked it up in the phone book or something. I'm old. In the phone book. She looked it up in the phone book. Just the year 2000. And she looked it up, and we came out here, and, you know, I just wanted to play guitar, and I was left-handed. And if I remember correctly, one of the employees was like, play air guitar to determine if I was wanting to strum left-handed or right-handed. And I strummed left-handed, and they're like, you know, you want to play left-handed then. I'm like, okay, whatever, you know, big life decision, no big deal. So I grabbed a lefty Sunburst Strat and a Vox amp and a wah-wah pedal for my birthday from Elderly. Now, here's the thing. This is why I want to tell this story. Was that I went home and I started taking lessons at White Brothers Music in Okemos. If you remember that spot. And, you know, I kind of got somewhat good at playing, and I'd go over to a friend's house and I would play their upside down right-handed guitar. And one of my friends ordered an American Pro Strat from a catalog. and I picked it up, and what I now know what is action. I'm sure a lot of your listeners know what action and intonation are. Well, us teenagers did not know what action and intonation were. And I'm trying to play my friends upside down, and I'm like, wow, expensive guitars don't play nearly as good as cheap guitars. That's what I thought at that moment, because I got a Squier Strat that was well professionally set up. The intonation was great, and I played it for years like that. And my friend was just having a hard time. They couldn't even push the strings down. And the thing was, because they ordered something that, and this is, no diss on stuff coming out of factories, but occasionally in shipping, etc., there isn't consideration for the fact that it's not going to be set up when it gets to the consumer's hands. And so, at Elderly, unless we're selling it as an as-is item, which we do for things at low cost, that instrument went through our repair shop.
Right.
And those, skilled guys made sure that every note plays right, every fret's, rounded off at the end so you're not nicking your fingers, and everything's intonated, the knobs aren't scratchy and all that stuff. And, if you're a beginner musician and you get your first instrument at Elderly, you're totally spoiled, because you got a professionally set up instrument with your package. It's a package deal.
Right.
And you don't even realize that, but for people who experience going between, you've played instruments that aren't set up well, it's, it's just, you just don't have fun, and for a beginner, that could be the whole battle. You could totally just give up because your instrument wasn't set up, and your mom and dad who got you the acoustic guitar have no idea that it's not set up, and something you were interested in, falls by the wayside when it, really somebody just adjusting a truss rod or, checking the intonation at the 12th fret, would make all the difference.
Right. And this is a good point too, is like, I try to, well, the pandemic's kind of ruined this, but I always try to take my instruments in at least once a year to get looked over, because to me, I consider it like a routine, I don't know, like an oil change for your vehicle. Just like with your instruments, every once in a while, especially in Michigan, because Michigan, the Midwest, you could say, because of the way that our humidity levels are super, super high in the summertime and super, super low in the wintertime, your instrument is constantly being bombarded by all of these, weather elements that can, really change how the playability of that instrument can be. And that's probably true in other regions of the world as well. But I know in Michigan, it's just like we can never win, because in the wintertime we're dry, and in the summertime it's too much moisture, so you can't win. But yeah, that's a really, really good point, that with Elderly, every single instrument that, as on the sales floor, goes through and gets hand looked, and, made sure that everything is where it needs to be as far as the specs, so that, when you are picking up that instrument, it is ready to go and it is ready to play well,
Yeah, I don't think I'd be playing today if my Strat wasn't set up, honestly, because as a lefty, I couldn't play anybody else's guitar. I got my one guitar, that was my one chance, and it played awesome, I got rid of it. I tend to do that. Cheap guitar, Squier, I gave it away 8 years or something ago. Gave away my second guitar was from Elderly too. I gave away that Telecaster last year because I'm buying so many now that I work here. I don't really need my older ones, although I do miss them. But, I try not to clutter the house.
So I should ask, how many guitars do you have?
Let's see. I have 4 guitars and a banjo and an ukulele and a melodica, and I got all these things are fun. Got that through Elderly as well. I'm eyeing one of our Farida acoustic guitars right now.
Oh yeah, yes.
That's been my next purchase for a while, and I'm kind of wondering if now's the time. We got a lefty model in that I want to grab. So yeah, I really like the Faridas. That's a in-house design brand for the people who don't know. We worked with the company Farida to do Farida USA models. So the OT20 series, E10 series. I don't remember the other ones. OT50. I don't know.
Check the website.
I know Stan and Lily are going to watch this and be like, come on, man. But yeah, FaridaUSA.com. That's us. We designed those. We put our name on it at first, but then we decided we wanted to see if other stores would like to carry these as well.
Right.
And, they play like a great vintage guitar. and they've got great vintage style acoustic guitar, steel string. But they have a low price point for what they are.
They sound great though. They sound awesome.
Yeah, they really do. So I got an OT22. I was playing it this morning actually. So.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking that you were going to say an astronomically large number, because I remember talking to Jim Jones, and Jim, I was like, how many guitars do you have, Jim? Because I was like, every time I see you, you always got a different guitar in your hand. It's never the same one. He's like, man, I'll tell you what. I got a climate-controlled room. And I think at the last time I talked to him, this is maybe a few years ago, he said that he had like 40 at that time. And he's like, and I'm still building. I was like, geez.
His story he'll tell you is that when he worked here, back in the day, is that he had his budget set. So he would eat over at Olympic Broil, the spot around the corner.
Right.
And he knew exactly, he had his change counted out for his food. And everything else went to the guitars. Jeez. So he had like a very strict regimen to his finances so that he could purchase as many guitars as possible.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm like, man, you can't possibly play them all. He's like, man, I play them all. Yeah, he's a good guy though. Good guy.
He's an amazing player, and he's a great testament to like lifelong learning, because he's sitting there with a lesson book, a tabs book every day, looking through it, picking out new stuff, like really trying it and applying it to his playing.
Right.
And video demos together, and they're always the best received ones, because he's got a lot of personality in his playing. He's a really musical person, and he can jump around different styles as well, and picking techniques.
Yeah.
And also he's just, he's a funny guy too. He's got a lot of charisma on camera. So that helps on the internet a lot. Yeah.
He, every time I see him too, he's like, Mr. Hat, how you doing, man? He's such a good guy. He's like, Mr. Hat. And he'd always be like, do you always wear hats, Mr. Hat? And I said, well, it's my name, isn't it? Does that not sound like him though?
Yeah. I haven't seen him since stay-at-home order began, really stinks. I miss him a lot. So he does watch this. What's up, Jim?
Shout out to Jim Jones.
Shout out to Jim Jones.
All right, AJ, this has been really, really fun, and I've really enjoyed this. Getting a kind of behind the scenes perspective on all the marketing that happens over at Elderly. In closing here, do you have like any final remarks that you want to say or anything like that on behalf of you and Elderly?
Well, this year's been really challenging for a lot of companies, especially locally owned companies. And, we've been growing over the last few years as well, going through a lot of changes. And it's actually been really amazing what Lily Werbin is doing, taking over the company. I really want to applaud her efforts in keeping this company strong during a pandemic. We're just as strong as ever. I think a lot of that goes to the history of the company. We were one of the first companies to really hit the internet with catalog style shopping. And I feel like that momentum carries to this day. So I just want to give a shout out to Lily in particular for keeping the company strong right now. And we're all just going to try to match her energy and keep interesting, awesome sounding instruments to our audience.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, Lily is really great. I am so blessed that Elderly is so welcome to the idea of letting me do this and communicate with their staff. I can't say that would be true for other companies. And again, it really just goes to show that Elderly is just so welcoming to really talking to their customer base and really being a part of their lives. And that's what I love about Elderly is it's just, once you purchase an instrument from Elderly, it's not like, oh yeah, I got this from Elderly. It's like, no, I got this from Elderly. And that instrument will be with the Elderly name as long as you have that through your entire life, and that's just what's so awesome about Elderly instruments. So AJ, thank you a lot for this. This has been really enjoyable. And I hope very, very soon that maybe we can see each other in person and I can be in the store again, once again, to see all these cool things to look forward to.
We are opening again soon, so stay tuned for that announcement.
Okay. All right, AJ, thanks a lot. Take care now.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys, that was the episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I always have a lot of fun interviewing all the special guests that are on the Just Music podcast. Make sure that you check the playlist down below in the description so that you can check out the other episodes on the Just Music podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.